Hey, just wanted to give a quick rundown of the Virgo Cup. A couple people in the Discord were asking me about it. And if you didn't ask me about it, well, this is unsolicited, so I apologize. But it's really not that difficult of a champions meeting compared to what we just did in the Leo Cup. It's a lot shorter. It is a mile race, so we're going to have simultaneously a lot more gambling in terms of who gets out front rather than what we can actually control, and we just have to accept that. It's a lot closer to the Cancer Cup than it is the Leo Cup. It's almost identical except for a few intricacies. Namely, we are going right instead of left, so right-handed is a lot easier to acquire than left-handed. And also, because it's a lot like the Cancer Cup, the final spurt actually starts on a straight instead of the corner. So a lot of corner skills won't be working for us gambling mains, and a lot of straight acceleration skills will actually be somewhat useful. The other thing that is different is the position grab at the start of the race as well as the final spurt are both uphills, and it ends in an extreme uphill. This means that power is incredibly important because at the end of the race, which is the most important spot for speed, you're going to struggle if you don't have enough power because you're going on an uphill. And your early positioning, which is where you basically stay the entire mid-race, is also determined by power. The other difference between this and the Cancer Cup is there's also no downhills on the race at all, which means that no downhill skills will trigger. And for us gambling mains, it means wit is even less important because it won't even give a stamina bonus at all. So it purely is there for positioning as well as for skill activation rate. So that's why you see a lot of people suggesting insane amounts of power to levels we haven't seen before. And this stats, they seem like a lot, and they are, to be honest. These are not necessarily whale numbers, but you need a decent deck to get these. But because of the Unity Cup scenario, which is Oharu in Japan, the second scenario that's coming out, we're going to have a higher potential of actually reaching these numbers. But I want to actually keep these guides to a goal of basically getting into A finals, because that's where 90 to 95% of the rewards are just really making it. If you look at the rewards, you get an extra ticket of each, and it's about 500 extra carats just to get first and third. Whereas just getting into A finals rather, really gives you the bulk of it because you're guaranteed 1,000 carats rather than going down all the way to 500. Secondarily, if your deck isn't that great, aim for B finals and take a little bit off of these numbers too. What I would suggest if you're trying to get into A finals itself, the real numbers that I think are very well attainable. This is mostly for the gambling metas. Again, I'm more of a late surger main, so I am much more knowledgeable on the gamblers than I am in the front runners. Front runners need a lot more wit. That's why you have 600 rather than 400 in this example, and they sacrifice some power for it. But I'd say realistically, instead of maxing out speed, as long as you have more than 1100, you give yourself a chance. As long as you meet the stamina requirements of 600 on front and gambler, you will give yourself a good chance. The actual stamina requirement for this mile race with these two uphills is 470 for front, late, and end, and it's 500 for pace because they have a stamina debuff. But if you're running in a pack of 8 other Umas, it's not always going to be ideal. So that's why a lot of guides, almost every guide, should say 600, because if you get blocked, if you get rushed for some reason, if you have a late start, if you for some reason have a stamina debuffer behind you, they are not very common in mile races, but they do appear sometimes. If any of those things happen, you do want a little bit of buffer for stamina. Swinging Maestro does give you some stamina points in an emergency, but it's also 300 skill points that can be allocated other places. but it is a decent hedge against debuffers. Like I said, stamina debuffers are not very effective in the CM in general. So 600 stamina base, this is the only really required number to hit. This is proportional to your speed. If your speed's a little lower, your stamina technically can be a little lower. I would not go below 1100 speed if you can help it. Power is a weird number at 901 because power is the specialty stat this race. So every 300 points above 1 in your base stats, 901 stamina is going to give you an additional 0.5 over having 899. So as soon as you hit the 901 threshold, you get a 0.5 speed boost. And speed boosts are hard to come by in a mile race, especially this one, because there's not that many that are actually effective. Guts does not matter. You can always just have extra stamina at this point. You can sacrifice guts almost down to nothing, but it does help in a about 2-to-1 ratio for stamina. So having about 850 combined stamina and guts, you should be able to survive the race. Wit gives consistency. So the reason why I'm dropping wit so much for the gamblers is because we don't really vie for position as much because we're trying to hit 6th place. We're not trying to hit 1st place on the last spurt. So moving down to 300 wit lowers your rate from about 92% to about 75%. And that's still makeable that most of your time you're going to hit the skill that you actually need, which is your acceleration skill on the final spurt. Each one of these ones, I'll start making the Pace Chaser, Late Surger, and End Closer guide. I'm sure Secretariat has some great info on front runners you can do. Because this is a mile race with only a single curve, the Pace Chaser, Late Surger, and End Closer acceleration curves are going to be nearly identical. The only difference is which skills that they have access to and their initial positioning. But otherwise, I'm available in the Discord if you need questions on anything. Otherwise, it's pretty close to Cancer Cup. It really is. Mile S, with the lack of skills that actually work in this one, Mile S should almost be mandatory on gamblers, I would say, at this point. All right, this has been Burb, and this has been the overview for Virgo Cup. I'm going to be making probably the Late Surgery guide first because that is what I know best here in the next couple days. And ask Secretariat for front runners. I don't do them. Burb out.